In this tutorial, I'll show you how to change day into night using Photoshop. We'll use blend modes with solid color adjustments and color lookup adjustments to make our lighting effects and day to night transformation. So we're going to start off with this image. I got this image from Adobe Stock, and I'll leave the number of the Adobe Stock image in the description. And we're going to use this other image of night sky. And the first thing I want to do is bring that night sky in. First, I want to duplicate my background layer, and I'll just call this day image. And I'll come up here to select sky, and Photoshop has made a selection of the sky. Did a pretty good job here. And then I'll come down here to the add new layer mask icon and click that, and turn on my sky image and drag the sky image down below my day image. And on my layer mask for my day image, I'm going to invert the layer mask, Control or Command I, and with that layer mask selected, I can use my move tool and I can move my sky around, and you can experiment with your sky just to see where it looks best. And in my image here, I have a lot of color, so I want to reduce some of that color. I'm going to add a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and I'm going to bring my saturation down in my image. I'm going to make it around 60, and I want to click on this icon right here, which is going to clip my hue and saturation adjustment layer to my day image. So now all my adjustments above here are going to just affect the day image. It's not going to affect the sky also. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select some of these windows that we want light to come out of. And you can use any selection tool you want to select the glass. And here you have small glass panes. I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool. But first I want to take care of this area right here. So I'm going to come up here to my polygonal lasso tool, and I can see that I missed an area right here with the sky. So I have my mask for my day image selected, and I'm just going to use my polygonal lasso tool to get this area right here. And I'm going to hit Command Delete, and it's going to fill that with black, and Command D to deselect it. Okay, so each of these windows here, I'm going to select, I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool, and as I'm going from point to point, you see the effect that the tool has. It gives you a rubber band effect that you can see kind of where you're going, and it helps in this regard here because you have all these little panes. And up at the top you see I have this second square. It says add to selection. I have that selected, so now that allows me to keep on adding to the selection as I'm going. So I'm going to speed this up a lot. I'm just going to select all the windows where I want the light to come through. If you make a mistake, you can hit escape and just start over. So I'm just pressing down on my space bar and panning over to the areas that I want to select. I'm zoomed in. So now that we have a selection of the windows where we're going to have the light coming through, we're going to color those windows. So to do that, I'm going to create a solid color adjustment. And with the color picker, you can decide which color you want. Something that looks like a light. I've already chosen a color. You can see that color value down here. And I'm going to say OK. I'm going to name my color fill layer window color. And I'm going to move that up in my layer stack. And I want to make sure that it is also clipped to the layers below. So you see that arrow right there. And you can play with these blend modes right here, whichever you like. If you like it normal, I'm going to go to linear dodge add and make that my blending mode. And with that layer mask selected on my window color, and B for the brush tool, I have a light up here that I'm going to brush in some of this, something like that. And I'm using soft round brush with a opacity of 100 and my flow of 33%. And for my windows up here, these edges here are pretty sharp. I want to add some feathering. So if I click on the info and bring up the properties on my layer mask, and I can add some feathering to that, something about 2.7, And so that added some feathering to the window lights right here. And so again, we're going to make sure that any adjustment layers that we're adding right now are clipped to the day image layer. And now we're going to start on making our image a little bit darker. So you can use any image you want. It could be as light or as dark as you want to begin with. But we're going to see how we can work with this image here that has a lot of bright light in it to begin with. So now I selected my hue and saturation adjustment layer. Right on top of that, I want to add a color lookup. So we're going to add a color lookup table, and we're going to choose, what do you know, moonlight. So we're using this as a starting point. This is still a pretty bright image anyway. You could stop here if this is your taste, but I want to add a little bit more coolness. First, I'm going to rename this Moonlight. That's what we chose. Yes, for me, I want to make this a little bit darker, a little bit deeper. So this is going to depend on the image you choose. So now I'm going to come to my adjustment layers, and I'm going to choose gradient map. And I'm going to click right here in the middle to edit the gradient and slide down to where it says blues. And I'm going to look for something called blue 29. And I'm going to say okay and close this. And on my gradient map, I'm going to name this blue 29 and select my blending modes and come down here to soft light and choose that. So what's good about using all these adjustment layers is at any point you can tweak it. I can take down my opacity, see that, and maybe I'll change my opacity to 90 for right now. And you can go back to any of these adjustment layers and change it to your liking. And because I chose a bright image, I still see a lot of highlights and midtones that I might want to dim down a little bit. So next, what I could do is I could add a levels adjustment layer. Again, all these layers are clipped to my day image, and my slider on the right here for some of my highlights, I can bring that down a little bit. You can see how that dims it even more. Some of the midtones here, I can bring that down a little bit. And again, this is to your taste. There's the before and after on that. So now I want to paint in some of the areas where this lamp is shining on this building here on its left and down here on the ground. So on the moonlight layer that I have here, and with my foreground color on black, I'm going to use my soft round brush and paint in around this lamp, make that brush a little bit bigger, paint here on the side of the building in any of the areas where I feel that lamp should be shining, something like that. And if you make a mistake, add too much, just hit X and your swatch will turn to white as your foreground color, and you can paint over that and remove some of that. So now I want to add a little bit of color of the lamp, whereas on the building and on the ground. So I'm going to select my levels adjustment. I'm going to add another solid color adjustment layer, and I'm going to choose a lighter color than that window. I'm going to type in a color that I had chosen already. You can use that and say okay. So on my color fill layer up here, I'm going to change the blending mode to overlay, and I want to be able to paint in the areas of that light. You can see that color is already showing through. If I hit Command I to invert that layer and hit X, and I'm going to paint with white as my foreground color, and I'm going to brush in the color that is coming from that lamp, something like this. And I'm painting the lamp a little bit, and I'm going to hit X because that is a little bit too much over there, a little bit too much there, and this lamp is a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to put a layer mask on the sky layer over here, and with black as my foreground color, I'm just painting in a little highlight here at the top of the lamp, just so you can see it more. You can click on any of these layer thumbnails. You can change the color. You can change the color of the window light. You can change the opacity on any of your layers. If I come down here to the bottom of the layers panel on this eye, hold Alt and click. There's the before. There's the after. If you want more tutorials just like this, click on one of the videos on the screen now. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. And remember, it's never too late to learn. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.